Administration, chairman of the American Conservative Union and former political director for President Bush, Matt Schlapp. And in Washington, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and associate editor of the Washington Post, MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson.
Matt, did you bring your DNA sample this morning?
Yes.
No, and I didn't bring my Pulitzer Prize either.
You just he handed my
Yes.
It's all right.
You brought a casserole.
Feeling inadequate.
He brought a casserole.
Gene Robinson, did Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton impress you yesterday?
You know, they did. I mean, that's a fairly dynamic duo. Look, she's really good at this. She's really good at getting under Trump's skin, and she's good at rallying the troops in a way that, you know, I'm trying to think of anybody else on the Democratic side who has been so successful at sort of sounding those notes and animating the troops. I think Warren's got it. So
I can't think of anybody on the Democratic or the Republican side, Mark Halperin, who's as good at going after Donald Trump as Elizabeth Warren. I don't think there's a close second.
What about your friend Howard Dean?
I mean, Howard's great, but Howard, I think Elizabeth Warren is uniquely qualified to go after Trump day in, day out.
I wonder if the Republicans, the 16 Republicans who failed to stop Donald Trump, look at that. Because a lot of those lines are things they could have used and wonder why couldn't they be as effective in an energetic, confident way.
Because they were scared.
They were all scared.
Energetic and confident.
They all played it too safe. They were all in a box. Here you got somebody, Matt, it's a great combination of somebody who's part Harvard, but part Oklahoma.
That's
she
right.
grew up in Oklahoma, and when she goes after Trump, I've always said George W. Bush, sort of with that Texas swagger that he had, would have cut Trump into a million pieces with one look in the first debate.
I like Jeb, but it was the wrong Bush brother
going up against Trump. This Oklahoma thing that she's got going for her makes her powerful, Matt, right?
That's right. I agree with Eugene. I think it's a powerful combination. I think the key, though, here is that for that crowd, she's clearly playing to the base of her party and to the left, and for that crowd, it really works. Give the other 16 a little benefit here, which is in front of that Republican and conservative crowd. The themes Trump was hitting were very appealing to that crowd, and it wouldn't have worked as well.
And Jean, it's very much her background from Oklahoma, her family, the book she's written, what she studied in college, and what she's done ever since then, from creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to running for Senate. She has a story, like Bernie Sanders, that matches a message that Hillary Clinton very much needs to make sure people see as part of her message.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an asset to Clinton to have Warren. She does have that Oklahoma vibe going for her. That's really tough. That it has that swagger about it. And you know, the thing about Hillary Clinton, obviously, from the figures you've been looking at, people believe they know her. They have formed opinions about her. And you know, frankly, for a lot of Democrats, those feelings are kind of lukewarm. Yeah, I'll vote for her, but you know, Warren, I think, if the Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to get their base excited, and I think Warren does that.
Yeah, she certainly does. And we have new head-to-head poll numbers in the White House race. This week's NBC News SurveyMonkey online tracking poll shows Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump by 8 points, 49 to 41. It's her highest advantage since the general election matchup question was first asked on May 2nd. Meanwhile, the new NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows where the candidates are strongest. This is so interesting. Trump leads in attributes like changing Washington, where he has a 30-point advantage over Clinton. He has a 16-point lead in being honest and straightforward.
Gene Robinson, explain that one for us. That's why we have you on.
I have no idea, because Donald Trump, as you know, says whatever flits across his mind, right? I mean, you know, true or not true or made up. And
41 to 25. Even Republicans are shaking their head at that one.
It's not about him.
No, I mean, and so he has this image as a straight shooter. Now, he shoots in every conceivable direction. But he has an image as a straight shooter. Hillary Clinton has an image as a triangulator. And so, you know, I mean, look, that's what Clinton is up against. On the other hand, as you saw from the overall number, she's got 8 points on him now.
That is a
and heading in the right direction
Matt,
from
that
her
is a
point of view.
direct hit on Hillary Clinton's fundamental problem. The American people, I think Republicans and Democrats, I think a lot of Democrats I talk to, know that if Donald Trump shoots straight, she shoots crooked. And they just feel like she's got a second set of rules for her. It's the way the Clintons play the game. It's why the Sanders movement was so potent in that party. There is this perception. You said
something fascinating under your breath while we were reading the polls. You said it's not about him.
It's not. That's an indictment on her.
This is a referendum on 40 years of her public.
So we're all looking at Donald Trump and saying, my God, he's doing this, and that's not the right way to do it. And this, what is he doing this in the campaign? We got to realize at some point in this, it's really about this 20-year relationship America has had with the Clintons. And at this point in our history, do they want to go with that?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people who don't.
They didn't want to go with the Bushes, and there'd be a big question on whether they want to go with the Clintons. I want to go with three numbers, though. If you had to pick the three numbers that matter the most in any poll right now, would be number one, changing Washington. Number two, who's going to fix the economy. Number three, who's going to keep us safe from terrorism. Trump wins all three of those, Mark Halpern, pretty easily.
He does, but he, you know, the downside of his attracting all this attention, when he was running in for the nomination, getting all the attention, crowded everybody out. The downside is, you know, Matt would like this to be a referendum on her, but he makes it a referendum on him by being so visible.
Out from Matt. I know you like to say this is about her, and to an extent you might be right, but this is a man who hasn't been on the political scene that long, so he hasn't run out the clock on some of the most ridiculous things that have ever been said in the history of American politics that have come out of his mouth. And as that progresses, if he does not stop, if he does not find a really measured tone, get a band of surrogates, get some policies that make sense to conservatives, he is not going to be able to keep these numbers.
Well, Matt, I think you'd agree. He needs to get out of his own way.
Well, the only thing I would say is, after everything you said, those numbers about the attributes on these key issues, they're surprising. That no matter what has gone on in this campaign, on the issues that are the most important issues in this campaign, he's doing staggeringly well.
He is, but we haven't had a debate yet. On the economy and on terrorism, she's going to crush him in the debates. She's going to crush him. I'll just say it right here.
You really think so?
Yeah, I think so.
I think Elizabeth Warren will definitely crush him. But you have to give him his due. Yesterday he made some big staff changes. Is what he's got to do. He's got to really staff up. He was able to bring a key staffer from the Ted Cruz campaign. That Ted Cruz relationship is very important to him.
By the way, talking about his communications guy.
That's right, Jason Miller, which is a very talented guy. Alan Cobb, who's someone who's been involved in conservative politics for 20 years, is going to run coalitions. They are starting to make some of these changes. It is late. And I understand that you're looking at this and saying, come on, guys, get with it. But I think they're making the kind of changes they need.
Mika, you shocked me here.
Why?
Because you sound like the people that you made fun of during the primary when you said, oh, Trump's going to get crushed in the debate. We saw those.
I didn't say that, but I didn't say that. You're saying other people said that.
Right, back then. But now you're saying that Hillary is going to crush Trump in this debate. And how many debates did we see where we go, oh, that wasn't good for Donald? And then polls would come out, and not even the online polls, major polls would come out, and they'd say Donald won.
So most of those debates, we said, it seems bad, but he's probably going to win, or win in the polls. I think there was one debate where we were slightly off. I will tell you that this is one-on-one. This is going to be very much like the Democratic debates that you saw between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, where they actually talked at length, in depth, for many, many, many minutes on the issues. I just don't think he can do it.
Gene Robinson, October 1980. A lot of people were certain that Ronald Reagan would look like the amiable dunce, the B-list Hollywood actor that he had been, dismissed as the fascist gun in the West, the guy that was going to start World War III, and that Jimmy Carter was going to debone him.
Well,
it didn't quite work out that way. You can never tell what's going to happen in these debates, can you?
No, you don't know what's going to happen. Now, Ronald Reagan, I think a lot of people at the time forgot that Ronald Reagan had been governor of the nation's largest state for 2 terms. He knew something about politics. He knew something about what he was doing, and he was the great communicator in his unique way. Trump communicates.
Nobody was calling him that in 1980. They were calling him a bumbling fool.
But he
in
ran a
1980.
state.
No,
He had
but
a sense.
we know this. We know this in retrospect. We know that he had a way of reaching people. We don't know what we know about Trump is that he had a way of reaching the Republican base out of visceral and surprising the political world. And we know he has this, you know, as I've been saying, this Godzilla aspect about him, which is that traditional political attacks seem to make him stronger rather than weaker. What we don't know about Trump is whether in that debate setting before the entire nation he's going to anything like that impact, or whether he's going to freak people out. And he is freaking a lot of people out by the crazy things
I think
he
he's going to freak people out.
Yes,
listen, I mean, all we heard, and we had 17 people on stage with him, so he only had a little bit amount of time to speak. That's a big advantage for him. What did we learn in all the interviews he's done? He's going to build a wall. It's going to be a great wall. He does not answer to anybody how he's going to build the wall. He's going to have great teams. He's going to surround himself with great people. He does deals. That's what we've gotten in months and months and months.
He's going to have to up his game.
And there is a pendulum effect here in American politics for what this rule is worth. I mean, it's been 68 years since we had more than 8 consecutive years of one-party White House rule. And Hillary sort of running as kind of the de facto vice president, and we've only had 2 of those succeed. So.
All right, yesterday was a big day of decisions from the Supreme Court. One of those decisions was a unanimous one to throw out former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell's conviction on bribery charges. The former Republican governor was convicted of 11 counts of public corruption in 2014. Prosecutors claimed he accepted gifts and loans worth more than $175,000 in exchange for promoting a dietary supplement. But McDonnell insisted he never took any official action to benefit the company, and the gifts themselves were allowed under the Virginia law at the time. The justices all agreed that the federal government failed to prove that McDonnell performed an official act in exchange for the loans and gifts. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion, saying in part, "There is no doubt that this case is distasteful. It may be worse than that. But our concern is not with the tawdry tales of Ferraris, Rolexes, and ball gowns. It is instead with the broader legal implications of the government's boundless interpretation of the federal bribery statute." The case was sent back to the lower courts to decide if prosecutors have enough evidence to try McDonnell again. His wife, Maureen, was also convicted. The 2 were tried separately, and her appeal is pending. Mrs. McDonnell's lawyer released a statement saying the Supreme Court ruling also applies to her and that her conviction should be immediately tossed out. You said all along. And you said it when it was not cool to say it. It was awkward to say it. You said this was bogus.
It was from the very beginning. I said I was stunned that this governor, as unbecoming as it may have been, did not violate a single law in his state. And the federal government went out of their way to swerve, out of their way to run him over, to take up jurisdiction in his state where all the states' ethics commission said he did not violate any laws, and then go after him this way and convict him, and said at the time it was simply an outrageous abuse of conduct. This has been happening. The Justice Department has been criminalizing politics for a decade now. I know a lot of people out of the Abramoff affair that actually were investigated for 7, 8, 9 years, and their lives ruined, and then the Justice Department said, go on, there's nothing there. Or another case of a dear friend of mine who was hammered and finally struck a deal just to move on with his life, was run out of Washington, D.C. His life was destroyed. He goes in front of a federal judge, and the federal judge looks at him and says, why are you here? He said, Your Honor, I don't know. Because I'm sorry. Basically, go in peace. And this has happened time and time again over the past decade. This is only the highest profile example of it. It's disgraceful that the Justice Department did what they did. And McDonnell has been destroyed. He's been destroyed politically. He's been destroyed economically because you had a federal government that stuck their nose where it didn't belong.
Matt Schlapp, thank you very much. Eugene Robinson, thank you as well. We'll be reading your new column in today's Washington Post, which looks at why Brexit is a cautionary tale for Trump supporters.
Speaking of Matt, did you hear? He's got 5 daughters. Poor guy. We were talking about my 2 boys getting married. 5 daughters.
So
that's
many.
Let me tell
terrible.
you. Let me tell you. It's I don't even want to think about it.
You gonna go for the son?
Yeah. Talk to my wife.